How's everyone doing? Today's project is this Toro Recycler with a Kohler 149cc engine, smaller of the two Kohler engines. I just took this in on a trade, and as you can see, it's got a few issues. Let's see if we can figure them out and get this one back in service. Alright guys, so I'm a big fan of these Toro Recyclers. I actually have one myself. It's the personal pace one, not the that one with the handle on it here for the self-propel. I don't mind the handle for the self-propel. Not honestly as big a fan of these Kohler engines. Mine has the Briggs & Stratton Quantum engine on it. Much bigger fan of that. But anyways, let's take a look at it. Obviously the top cover is off. Somebody's been, tinkering. So the starter looks like it's just starter recoil is just kind of on here just to say it's on here. We're gonna check. I did blow some of this crap off. You can see I blew it with an air gun. It was pretty nasty. But let's take a look at the oil. Oil level looks fine. Oh, I think I see why there was oil all over the deck here. I don't know if I can get in there tight, but this backside actually has is not tight. This front side is actually nice and tight. This backside has got an actual gap back there. So I think we got an issue with the gas cap. Someone probably cross-threaded it trying to get it out right there. I don't know if you can pick that up right there. It's been cross-threaded, so that would indicate, or at least give us an indication why this thing is full of oil all over it. But so we'll need a new one of these for sure. Let's see if it's got any fuel. Not a big fan of these gas caps either. There's a very small amount of fuel in there, which means there might be some left in the carb for testing. Let's just check out the air filter. Oh, okay. I'm pretty sure this is not the correct air filter. It is a filter of some sort, but I don't know if you can see in there. It's not really doing a great job. This should all be fairly clean in here. So you got to have the right filter, guys. All right, let's see what's next. So let's take a look at the underside. Make sure there's nothing here. Okay, the blade's not bent. And I'm going to take off the spark plug wire just so that I can turn and spin this over and not risk having it start. It doesn't look like the crankshaft is bent. That's kind of what I'm checking for right now. It is missing a belt for the self-propel. Should be a belt right here going to the self-propel, so I know for sure the self-propel is not going to work on this machine. The other reason I know that for sure as well is if you come up the handlebars, you take a look, the self-propelled cable is busted. Alright, so what we're going to do is there is no primer system. This is an auto choke system. I'm going to put you down on the ground. We're going to try and fire this thing up. Alright, so that's not going to work. So my next step is I'm going to go ahead and put some raw fuel in there, ether, starting fluid, carb spray, whatever you got. Alright, so the other thing I want to check before I do that is I'm going to take this off. It just comes off. Put that with my air filter. And as you can see, the choke flap is actually closed. It is in the proper position. So sometimes if the choke flap doesn't close, then potentially your mower won't start, or it will start, but it will take like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pulls. So just open that choke flap, spray some starting fluid in there. And what we're looking for is for this thing to at least pop off. That way I know it has compression and spark. Alright, so that's good news. So I know it's got compression, I know it's got spark. So I think this is going to be a candidate for a restoration. Even if I don't get the self-propel working, I could probably still get 150 bucks for this once it's all cleaned up. So I'm going to put you up on the bench, and we're going to get cracking into the fuel system. Alright, so I got you up on my lift here. All these bolts are pretty much 10 mil on these things. First thing I'm going to do is try and get the gas tank off. So there is a bolt back here for the back side of the gas tank. It's at 10 mil. Right, now the other bolts holding on the gas tank are up here up top. So it's these big studs. So I got to take off the starter recoil first with these 10 mils, and then I can take these studs off on each side and get the tank right off after I disconnect it from the carburetor. Okay, we don't want to lose these little spacer things. Take those guys off. And then you need a 10 mil, like I call them deep dish sockets. Someone made fun of me for that before, but that's what I've always called them. And these have some Loctite on them, so you can see that red stuff, so they might be a little bit difficult to get out. Alright, so take those two studs out. Alright, now I'm going to take off the air filter housing. And this just pulls right off. Okay, and then on the back side you got a couple of air hoses. One's a breather for the fuel tank, the small one. And then the bigger one is a crankcase ventilation breather. Alright, so get that guy off. Alright, so on here, this is pretty gross. Obviously that air filter is not doing anything. On here, so sometimes this gasket will be sort of a paperish cardboard material. Sometimes it actually is a metal one. This one happens to be paper. Now I'm going to take off this fuel tank. So there is a clamp right here. You just need yourself a set of pliers. And sometimes they position these clamps in the stupidest spot. Like, why wouldn't you just put the clamp right here, make it easy access? So alright, now there was a little bit of fuel in there, but if you're worried about fuel coming out, you can always clamp this fuel line with a pair of fuel line clamps. Get off Amazon, or you can, if you don't have that, you don't want to buy it, then you could maybe use a pair of needle nose vice grips. Alright, so that just comes off. Now you can see here that there's a little bit of a zip tie kind of thing right here. So what you can do is you just find the tabs, you kind of push the tabs together and push them through like so. And now we can get our fuel tank off. So I like taking the fuel tank off first because I like draining out the fuel and then what I do after that is like leave it outside and in the sunshine, and try and dry up all that old bad gas, and then I blow it out with an air gun if there's any debris inside. Alright, now to get this carburetor off here, the easiest way I've found with the auto choke assembly on this thing is here's your auto choke assembly that warms up, and it rotates this guy, that arm that comes across, and that opens that lever, and then your choke lever opens, and once it cools down it slowly retracts for the next cold start. So this linkage is a pain in the butt to get off. The easiest way I've found to get this off is there's two little Torx bit screws here, one there, and there's actually one right there. So you take those two things off and this whole bracket will come off. Then you can pull out the carb, and then you can remove the throttle linkage and return spring. Now I'm trying to remember T20. That's what it is. Okay, don't lose those two screws. Now this whole bracket, like I said, comes off. Okay, now I can pull out this carburetor assembly, and as you pull it out you can rotate the throttle linkage or the throttle assembly and pull the linkage straight up. And also you can take your return spring, try not to bend this too much if you can help it, just pull that off. And now this is the tricky part, to try and get this, well, the linkage to come off, and it just actually came off. So this linkage is a little bit tricky to figure out. So when I put it back together here, I will show you how this thing goes. Okay, I'm just going to put the linkage down in the direction I know it's going to have to go back. Now I can pull my whole carb right off. Okay, so for this carb cleaning, it's pretty dirty. I'm going to actually throw it in my ultrasonic cleaner, which I have warming up. What you want to do though is get all this debris and crap off, even if you're going to clean it manually. I will show you how to take it apart and show you how to manually clean it as well. But something this dirty I like to clean in my ultrasonic cleaner. So I'm going to blow all this stuff off, get as much of this debris off from the outside as I possibly can with my air gun. Alright, so I got you up on the bench now. As you can see, it looks a lot better just by, actually took a toothbrush with a little bit of old gas and kind of cleaned up the outside and then blew it off with the air gun. So now we're just going to tear this thing apart and put it in our ultrasonic cleaner. So this is a 10 mil bolt at the bottom. Everyone seems to want to over tighten. All right. So let's see if there's anything left in the bowl for fuel. Uh-oh. I'm not sure if this one's going to be salvageable. We'll have to see. Take a look at the inside of this thing. Yikes. That's a lot of water sitting in that carburetor and ethanol in the fuel. Sitting in this carburetor for quite some time. Oh wow. Yeah, this one might not be salvageable. I'm gonna take this bowl gasket off. Yeah, Look at this thing. This might be a lost cause on this one. I don't say that too often. I'm gonna see how good I can potentially get this. Might have to try and get a new bowl or a new carburetor altogether. All right, so first thoughts. Take a look. Oh, that rusty water. First thoughts, I'm going to use some carb spray. Maybe see what goes on there. Okay. All right, so it is looking a little bit better. I mean, it's not great yet. There's still a lot of rusty sediment and stuff in here. So this is kind of step one. I'm going to take this rubber gasket out of here though, because rubber gaskets and carb spray do not mix. This is definitely going to be going into my ultrasonic cleaner anyways, but I need to try and get a lot of this off if I can first. So next thing I'm going to do is try and take some steel wool. I'm not going to do this anywhere near the carburetor, and I'm going to try and clean this up as best I can with some steel wool. Alright guys, so I don't know if you can see in there, it's definitely way better than it was. I'm probably going to look to see if I've got a spare one of these kicking around just to kind of swap it out. Before I go that far though, I got to get into this carburetor and see if this whole carburetor can be salvaged or if I just put a new carburetor right on it. So the obvious thing here, this stuff just kind of wipes right off. Now these little holes on the side right here, these are the pickup tubes for the fuel. So you definitely got to make sure that those are clean. Okay. I'm going to take out the float pin. Here's the needle and the float. And I always usually wiggle the float to see if there's any fuel in there. Otherwise, if there is, you're going to have to replace that. All right, and then the next thing you got to do is you need to get the main jet and the emulsion tube out of there. What you need for that is get yourself a straight shaft, or sorry, straight shank flathead screwdriver. And this jet is brass, so make sure you're pushing down as you're turning so you don't strip the flathead on the jet. And then a lot of times, there it comes. Now the emulsion tube sometimes also comes right out after it. In this case it doesn't look like it is gonna do that. Oh, there it comes. So this is your emulsion tube. This turns your raw fuel or your liquid fuel into a sort of a vapor or a mist. And this is your jet that meters how much fuel actually goes into that emulsion tube. Now there should be an opening in the center of that. You could just barely make out a squeak of light through there. And that is completely clogged, as would be expected with what I've seen thus far. So to get this thing unclogged, what you're going to do is get yourself, I start out with this bread tie and try and stick that through there. and there's definitely some crusty junk in there. All right, just keep working that through back and forth until you can see that opening clear up. This one looks like it could use a little bit more help, so I'm going to use this torch tip cleaners. You could get these on Amazon. I'll put a link down below. They're not that expensive, maybe less than 10 bucks, I'm thinking. And you just find the right one. It's kind of serrated a little bit. You find the right one that fits through there, and you might have to progressively go bigger and bigger to find the right one. You don't want to drill this out oversized, because then it'll run too rich and I'll have too much fuel. And then this emulsion tube also should have a hole right down the center. These ones rarely get clogged, but they also have little holes on the side, and these are what's going to get clogged up. So once again, just run your bread tie through these and make sure that they're all cleared out. And then just spray these out with some carb spray. So alright guys, so what I'm going to do next is just put all this stuff in my ultrasonic cleaner. If you don't have one, again, just what I would do, one other thing I wanted to do is take out this idle jet. So this one actually has just a Phillips head on it. Just pull out the idle set screw and then just get up and underneath there and kind of pry up on the idle jet. And just take a look at the condition there. It's not in great condition, but so there's a big hole that goes through there. That's not usually what clogs up, but there's a small little tiny hole up and underneath here. And the only thing I found that works really is a little piece of wire brush. So as you can see, maybe that actually is pretty clear. So I'm gonna put that in with my other parts for the ultrasonic cleaner. This doesn't really need to go there, get cleaned. I'm gonna put all this together. If you don't have an ultrasonic cleaner, what you're gonna want to do is just spray out all these little passageways. There's one little here, and then one in here, and then this guy, and then your seat area where the needle valve goes, and in through the fuel intake. Alright guys, so I got the carburetor and the fuel tank all put back on. My apologies for not recording the reassembly of the carburetor here. It's just the reverse. If you're not 100% sure and you want to have access to a video that reassembles one of these carburetors, I'll put a link in the top right corner here now to another video where I show you how to clean and reassemble one of these carburetors. So I also have the choke assembly back in place. I did say I would show you how this knob goes. Again, my apologies. I had a neighbor come in and I was trying to get some work done while he was talking to me. But if you need to know how this actually goes together, it's actually fairly simple. You put this end in first, all right, just as it's shown here, before you slide the carburetor all the way on. And then you can adjust this arm as necessary to line up this other end that actually curls around and slides into that little slot. So my apologies for not showing that, but I had to continue to get some work done. All right guys, so I put some fresh fuel in there. I don't see any leaks from the carburetor. No wetness at all. So everything's hooked up. Spark plug, I've serviced it actually. And let's see if it fires up. Alright, so this thing fires up good, runs good. A little bit of black smoke gets puffed out every time you start it and every time you shut it down. And that's just kind of due to the choke. With the choke being closed, it's going to run pretty rich until that choke valve opens up, which is pretty much once it gets fired up. And then it will, that black smoke goes away. So that's not that big of a deal. So I guess the next thing I got to work on is the self-propel. So I'm going to save that for another video, show you what I'm going to do with that, and get this thing cleaned up, new air filter put in there, and sharpen up the blade, change the oil, and she'll be good to sell. So thanks for joining me, guys. Hopefully this was informative, and if you like the content, please go ahead and hit the like button, and if you're not a subscriber, consider doing so. That really helps me out on the channel. So until our next project, take care.